Welcome to another edition of Lying on the Beach. I'm Steve Greenberg with
Lois Whitman-Hess.
And today we're going to be talking about just a change in the whole landscape when it comes to business. We're seeing WeWork, which is this hot little new startup company about giving a working space to people. All of a sudden it's being taken over by another company. We're seeing retail stores closing all over the place. We're seeing a real shift in business in general, definitely in retail. And Lois, what's your take on it? You're seeing it. We've been talking about it lately. What are your thoughts?
My first thought is that there's always change. And I'm always thinking about that in my head when I hear people complaining about the change. If there's one thing you can expect in life, it's change. And if you don't adapt to the change, then you might as well quit living. And I never get why people complain about it. Yes, I have the same feelings. I don't applaud all the new changes. But, when we didn't have the Internet, it wasn't so prevalent to us. But now that we have the Internet and all of us get 25 alerts, every hour, and we read more newspapers and magazines and blogs and Internet sites than ever before, and we have all this information going on in our head, it seems like there's more change than ever before. But it's not true. There's always been change. And, it depends on how people adapt to it.
I was thinking about, from maybe a side note to this, like Forever 21, all of these big companies that we've all kind of embraced, they all seemed like they were busy. Now they're disappearing left and right. But then Nordstrom's, out of nowhere, spends $500 million and builds this beautiful flagship store in Manhattan on 57th. And you have to wonder, are they trying to change the tide? Are they going against common sense? Or they know something we don't know about retail? Do you think this is a mistake, or you think this is genius?
Okay, so you asked me the question, but I'm going to ask it back to you. You took me to a new type of store, which is kind of a beta store in Hudson Yards. So Nordstrom's, you were there and you checked it out. Was there anything going on that was progressive that would keep people coming back all the time?
Well, I'd say what the things that are different about this Nordstrom's versus the competition. One, they have a bar on every floor, and literally the salespeople have a little gadget they're wearing around their neck. And if you say, I'd like a martini straight up, they just push a button on it, they order it, and then a waiter brings it to you while you're trying on your overcoats or shoes or wherever you are. So,
wait a minute, Art, is that for free?
No, you pay for your drinks. You still pay for your drinks. I asked the same question. You pay for your drinks, but you can get them while you're trying your shoes on. You don't have to be at the bar. And the sales guy in the shoe department or in the coat department or in the hat department can just push a button that they wear around their neck. They can order the beverage for you. You get billed for it, but it still shows up right where you're sitting. So
okay, I have no scientific proof, but I'll tell you right now, that's not going to sustain that department store. Nobody needs to go to Nordstrom's to get a drink. It's cute the first time. The second time someone's going to say, you know what, I'd rather buy it online, even from Nordstrom's, rather than go into the store. The drink is not going to hold the customer base. And my prediction, and I hope I'm wrong, but this is my prediction, it's going to be very popular for a while, and within 6 months, it's going to plateau, and then they're first going to be, in a challenging situation, trying to bring people in. And the only way they're going to do it is discount the clothes. And Nordstrom is somewhat known for giving you very good value, so that might be a draw. But they're going to have the same challenges as Bloomingdale's, Saks, and everybody else that's in the department store business.
I'll tell you something else that they're doing. If you have a Nordstrom's credit card, you can not only get the clothes that you buy there altered for free, but the woman told me that you can bring clothes that you bought other places, and they will alter them for free also. I can't believe that's true, but that's what the salesperson told me. So that's another thing they're doing. And the salespeople, by the way, are extraordinarily friendly, like they're all on lithium. I mean, it's the happiest, friendliest sales team you've ever met in your life. They're just
well, that's very important. Yeah, that's very important. But altering other people's clothes for free, I don't think will last forever. But retail is changing. I mean, I just read, I think it's Bloomingdale's, that is starting like a rent of runway, which I thought would never work, has changed the retail landscape where the Express, the chain of female stores, and clothes. I think Bloomingdale's are. So maybe Nordstrom, somebody at Nordstrom's who's very progressive, will come up with, one idea after another that will keep people in the store. They may even be a landing place for Amazon. I read the other day that a lot of Amazon customers that live in private homes really are fed up with the pilferage. So therefore, certain establishments will accept the packages, and people are coming to those establishments to get their packages. It seems to defeat the purpose, but if you live in a private home and someone's stealing it, this is a remedy. So again, maybe somebody at Nordstrom's is definitely coming up with these plans. But my prediction is that people like to buy online, and this big expensive store better come up with some remedies because they're going the way everybody else is going.
I mean, they literally spent $500 million. It's a family-owned business. The Nordstrom family still owns it. It's that's going to be a challenge. You have to make a lot of money to pay that rent.
Yeah, that's where the problem is. The minute some sort of a startup, and I certainly wouldn't call Nordstrom's a startup, but any new business, when people spend a lot of money in this day and age developing a new business, that's the first death knell. That's the first indication that it's not going to work, as we saw in WeWork. Now, you remember, you couldn't wait to get into every WeWork branch where there was great energy and, all the networking and, the great resources for people to tell you new things. You thought it was absolutely fabulous. And look because of how much money, for every $2 they spent, for every dollar they made, they spent $2. That was the statistics that I read. So there.
And the guy who ran the place was a nut job, and sometimes you get that. These very eccentric guys who, because they're so eccentric, they're willing to take these huge gambles, and that's why they launched something like this. But then the same craziness makes them an impossible boss, and that also helps to make the place implode, which is also part of what happened at WeWork.
You know what? I really blame the investors that give people this money, the Googles, the SoftBanks, and all of the VCs and angel investors and investment bankers. I wonder where their brain power is at. They write these big checks, and they don't, check out the guy that's running it. They don't ask how it's being executed. They don't ask for a balance sheet. They don't keep checking. All they do is give it to another person in their company, some middle manager, to check. The middle manager never checks, and all of a sudden the company is doing the most ridiculous roller coaster rides, and they go out of business. I have worked for so many companies over the years, startups, where they spent money foolishly on lavish parties, big promotions, advertising budgets, with no way to recoup. And they had a great idea, and the great idea never lasted because the people that came up with the idea just had no business sense, or they believed that they rose from ashes once they came up with this concept, and everything they thought and touched would turn to gold, and that does not happen. They really, truly believe that God invented them and put them on earth because they're geniuses. And I've seen it time after time. I saw it when I was 18 years old, and I'm seeing it at the age I am now, which I'm not going to mention because it's so old. I can't get it out of my mouth. In fact, I don't believe it, so it can't be real. But the truth is, I see it now with clients I have right now. They will justify some crazy expense for no reason. You'll wonder, what were you thinking? I can't see, a little bit of sense in some of the decisions that are made. Huh?
I've seen it time and time again, And one is a combination. They think they can do no wrong. They came up with the idea. It must be a gem, so that's why they're doing it. And I think the investors aren't invested in the decision in the way, I mean, the money doesn't hurt. This is money they've gotten from something else. They have a limited amount of money. They're just throwing it at this, and they don't care the way investors maybe used to care. So they're not monitoring it the way they should monitor it. Whatever, it's just money, and they're throwing it at this or that or the other thing.
That must be the reason, because they can't be that stupid. They must have just got money from something else and threw it into something else and don't want to think about it. Because I know that there was so many investors, I forgot what they call these companies, I guess investment bankers, that, or took over, what do you call it when like money people take over a company and they run it, whatever the names are. It went out of my head right now.
It's out of my head too. Like
just investors. They usually send in someone, to kind of oversee it. That someone has about as much justification as somebody's pet, dog.
Right.
And they don't care because they want to keep the job. The person they send in wants to keep the job so they don't make waves, because if they make waves, then they may be out of a job because they may close it up or they may get somebody in that could supervise it better. So they keep their mouth shut and they just run out of money. In fact, I never even realized it. I just figured out what was going on. Yeah, go ahead.
And I talked to someone who was an investor once, and I said to them, like, I kind of like questioned their investment, and they kind of gave me the impression that they had so much money that if they lost the money, the tax benefit kind of equaled the, if it was successful. If they had, so they almost didn't care either way. They were so, it's like, well, I'll just see what happens. It's like a gamble. And also, these people are gamblers, and part of it is they don't want to work it. They just want to gamble the money and see what happens. It's like throwing, dice in Vegas.
I mean, when we go to CES, we go to Eureka Park,
right?
We go to any of the places where all the startups are. I know CES is not going to be happy that I said it, but you don't see the same companies twice. You don't, maybe there's like a handful of companies that are constantly hyping their stuff.
I saw GoPro when it was on a folded table. I saw Ring video doorbell when it was on a folded table, and now both of those, GoPro and Ring, are huge monster booths. But 99% or 95% of the stuff you see in the startup area, when you come back the next year, they're gone. They haven't grown to the next level. They've just disappeared. And that's the nature of these startups. And some of them are great ideas, by the way. Some of them are terrific products. But something happens, and either it's mismanaged or whatever, and it just disappears.
But the problem with the inventors, if they have any little bit of success, they really start to believe that they're like, they're holy people. And then they start thinking like the way holy people should think. They think that that's what a holy person should do. And they start thinking that everything they do will turn into gold. And when it doesn't happen, one of two things happens. Either they have a nervous breakdown and you never see them again, or two, they just go out and steal somebody else's money. And they just continue it because they're really not. They're not in. Yeah, they're not in for the finish line. They're in just to take it for as much as they can. And by the way, while they're developing this idea, they're already working on the second one and getting money for the second idea. And the investment B people don't know investment A people. It's amazing. I've watched this happen so many times. And if I raise my hand to say, oh, guess what? I'm the PR agency for this phony company, I get cut off. I did it once or twice, and I got really blemished by a whole group of reporters, a whole group of money people, a whole group of analysts. Like, what did I do? Why did I have to open my mouth? So now I feel like it's not my job to be the messenger. Nobody wants to hear negative stuff from me, so I keep my mouth shut.
But and these same guys we were just talking about before, some things don't go well. Sometimes rather than cutting their losses, they double down on it because, again, they're gamblers by instinct. So now they put double the money in on it or triple the money or whatnot to double on it, and all it does is all goes down the same drain. So it can be a really vicious cycle. And I have to say, it's really no different than Vegas. There's a reason why CES is in Vegas, because a lot of these products These are gambling. You think the gambling is the crap table? Forget the crap table. Go down to the startup booth area. That's where the real gambling is happening.
That's really funny. I guess that's why they don't have the big shows in Vegas. But
Right.
you know who I really feel sorry for? I have seen people that start up companies, and they were honest workers. They got a little bit of money. They had to prove themselves, and it didn't work for some reason or another. I have seen some of these kids really, it impacted the rest of their lives. They just declared that they were losers. The rest of their life, they walk around as failures. And I feel terrible for them, because when I try to tell them about all the other people that lost, it doesn't resonate. It's like I'm being an irritant towards them. I'm lecturing, and they don't want to understand. They just, it's really terrible that way, too. I mean, it goes both ways. You can't let a
failure like that devastate your life, because you've got to pick yourself up and reinvent yourself. That's the only way you can do it. So I'm sorry to hear that. People
that don't have confidence in themselves should not be starting up companies, because
right.
they probably have more merit than the people with confidence, but you can't explain it to them because they have no confidence. It's unbelievable what goes on. But again, we're going to be going to CES 2020, a great 2020, a great number to be alive and be going to CES. And we're going to be seeing more and more of these companies all the time. But these are the innovative companies, and this is what change is all about. So getting back to your first question, at retail, when you're walking down Madison Avenue, Fifth Avenue, Coral Gables, another rich area in Miami, Rodeo Drive, pick up any area in Columbus, Cincinnati, Eastport, Pennsylvania. These stores are out of business. All these stores can't afford to be in business because life has changed. And this is something I want to address before we get off. We talked about it before. I just get so intolerant of people that are not even willing to try to change.
Right.
I mean, they want, this is what goes on in politics today. They want everything to stay the same. The right-wing evangelists do not want the world to change. They want to go with what was ever written in their worship books, and they are not willing to change. They want everybody else that interferes with what's written down in their Bibles to get the hell out of the United States.
The problem is change is scary, and life is scary. So when things change, you have to hunker down and just close your eyes a little bit and step forward, because that's what happens. But for a lot of people, they want to retreat, because it's scary. So I think that's what you're seeing a lot of. And people react to fear two different ways. They either get scared or they get angry, and that's what you see a lot of in America. The anger is people being scared of change, and the people being scared are scared of change. It's all about fear of change ultimately.
So what do you think that's all about? So let's dissect who these people are and why they're dangerous to the future. What is it about them in their personalities that they're so afraid from change? And before you answer that, let me tell you, I come from a family that was very fearful of change and very fearful of the unknown. Not that I'm saying that they didn't, put their little toe in it, because they did from time to time, but they certainly, I don't know where I came from, because they certainly would not accept a lot of the things that I had to accept.
But your scared family had to have some guts, because if you go back one more generation, they left Europe and came to America. So they had to, because things were so bad in Europe and the pogroms were going on or whatever it was at that moment, they took all their fears, shoved them down deep, and they crossed over. But then they shoved them down deep, but very often they're still there, those fears. So the next generation maybe gets to carry more of it. So your parents' generation now has that fear, but they're staying in America and they don't have anything to be as worried about, but they're nervous about change because there was this big upheaval in the generation before. And now you've had a whole generation of being here so that you have a lot less fear than the two generations before. I think a lot of it's about that. And I think some people who've lived in America for 9, 10 generations, they're so used to things the way they were, they don't want to see them change. This is how it's always been. This is how it always should be. And change is really difficult for people. I think so much of it goes back to that. I don't know. This is actually a topic for another podcast, and I think we should both commit that when we go to CES this year, we'll do a podcast on our favorite things that we saw at CES. So we have to make sure we do that as well.
You got it.
Okay, so for this podcast, we're going to not change anything. We're going to keep the ending the same because fear of change. So once again, I'm Steve Greenberg with
Lois Whitman-Hess.
And we have been Lying on the Beach. Take care.